I just said I felt hurt, and somehow it turned into me being selfish. If you've ever been in a situation like that, chances are you've been talking to a narcissist. And here's the truth: no one wants to face. Narcissists don't fight fair. They twist your words until you can't even recognize your own thoughts. In this video, you'll uncover exactly how narcissists distort language, flip emotions, and bend reality to gain control one word at a time. We'll break down the psychological tricks they use to make you doubt yourself with insights from minds like Carl Jung, Viktor Frankl, and Nietzsche. Because if you don't understand how they do it, you'll stay quiet, never knowing why. Have you ever felt misunderstood? Like you left a conversation, feeling like the villain, even though all you did was try to connect? If so, you're not weak. You're being emotionally manipulated. And right now, we're going to expose how narcissists twist your every word and slowly turn you into the villain of your own story. You walk into the conversation hoping to connect. You choose your words carefully, speak your truth gently. But a few minutes in, you feel like you've done something terribly wrong. You're told you're too sensitive, too selfish, always making things dramatic. And the terrifying part, you start believing it. That's not communication. That's control. And if you've been in that situation, you've already stepped into the core of how narcissists operate. They don't speak to understand. They speak to reshape you. Carl Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But narcissists fear that transformation. For them, language isn't a bridge, it's a battlefield. It's not about connecting, it's about dominance. They don't need to hear you. They need to win. You say, "I felt hurt when you yelled at me in front of others." They say, "You're always overreacting." That wasn't a big deal. They don't engage with your feelings. They reframe them to make you seem irrational. This is one of the most subtle and effective forms of gaslighting. They turn vulnerability into weakness, honest communication into manipulation. And every sentence you say becomes evidence against you in a script they've already written, one where they're the misunderstood victim and you're the unpredictable problem. You begin censoring yourself, editing your emotions, prefacing everything with "I'm not trying to blame you, but..." You even start apologizing before you speak. You've entered a game you never agreed to play and one where you're set up to lose. But ask yourself this: if your words are constantly twisted, what's left of the relationship that once felt real? Language is not just how we connect, it's where our truth lives. And when truth is constantly redefined, you don't just lose your voice, you start losing yourself. So if you find yourself explaining, defending, or reshaping your words just to be heard, pause. You're not broken. You're trapped in a language game you never signed up for. And if that feels painfully familiar, hit follow, because you're not alone. And this is only the beginning of the healing. Here's what most people don't realize. Narcissists don't just dodge responsibility. They create an entire linguistic reality where you end up holding it for them. They don't just lie. They redefine meaning. Jean-Paul Sartre once said, "Man is condemned to be free." But narcissists reject that freedom because freedom comes with accountability. Instead, they manipulate context. They make you question not what you said, but whether you should have said anything at all. You say, "I feel abandoned," when you disappear without explanation. They reply, "You're too dependent." Can't you handle being alone for a day? You're trying to connect. They call it controlling. You ask for clarity. They accuse you of being too sensitive. And this is where the emotional rupture begins. Not with screaming, not with violence, but with the quiet daily erosion of your confidence in your own reality. You begin to wonder, am I asking for too much? You start going quiet, not because you're at peace, but because you're tired of being misinterpreted. I once worked with a woman, educated, articulate, once a motivational speaker. After 2 years in this kind of dynamic, she could barely express herself. Every time she tried to open up, her partner would say, "You're always making things dramatic." So she stopped sharing. She stopped speaking. She stopped existing as herself. This isn't miscommunication. This is psychological erosion. And it runs deeper than words. It goes straight to your sense of identity. But that's only the surface. What happens next is darker when narcissists start using your own vulnerabilities as ammunition. There's one thing narcissists understand better than most, and they rarely say it out loud. Your vulnerability is their sharpest weapon. It's not their power or intelligence they use against you. It's their proximity. The closer they get, the more precisely they know where to strike. Gabor Mate said trauma is not what happens to you. It's what happens inside you as a result of what happens to you. And narcissists, they know exactly how to reopen that wound, not to heal it, but to control you through it. You tell them about feeling abandoned as a child. They nod. They listen. They even seem to care. But months later, during an argument, they look you straight in the eye and say, "You're acting like that abandoned little girl again. Grow up." Suddenly, something you shared in trust becomes a dagger they throw with precision. It's not loud. It's not brutal. It's just a comment. But it cuts where you bleed the deepest. This is the most dangerous kind of manipulation betrayal wrapped in soft language. It doesn't explode like abuse. It seeps in quietly, invisibly, and it leaves you unable to point to exactly what went wrong. You just feel smaller, because when someone you trusted uses your story against you, you don't fight back. You shut down. You don't raise your voice. You question whether you should have spoken in the first place. I've had clients whisper, "I'm scared to share anything now. Last time I opened up, it got used against me." That's not just a loss of trust. It's a collapse of self. You begin to believe that your feelings are burdens, that your pain is a liability, that your story is something shameful. We often think wounds come from actions. But with narcissists, the deepest cuts come from words. Not just what they say, but how they take what you said in love and throw it back in rage. And the worst part, you might still love them, still hope they'll stop, still think, maybe if you were stronger or less emotional or more reasonable, they'd treat you differently. But they won't, because this isn't carelessness, it's precision. So what happens when you stop sharing at all? When your silence isn't peace, it's surrender. That's when the final cost sets in. Not the arguments, not the confusion, but the quietest, most devastating loss of all your inner voice. The most devastating part of being manipulated isn't always the relationship you lose. It's the version of yourself you forget how to be. Viktor Frankl once said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." But what if that change doesn't come from growth, but from shrinking? What if it doesn't feel like becoming stronger, but more silent? When your words are twisted long enough, you don't just stop speaking. you stop thinking in your own voice. You begin to filter every thought, every feeling, every reaction through their lens, wondering how they'd interpret it, how they'd spin it, how they'd punish it. You become quieter, smaller. You trade authenticity for safety. At first, you're just trying to keep the peace. Then you're just trying to avoid being hurt. Eventually, you don't want anything at all except silence. And in that silence, you lose the most vital thing you have, your inner voice. You used to know what you loved, what made you laugh, what made you cry. Now even basic decisions feel like guesswork. You defer to others. You wait to see how someone else reacts before you reveal how you feel. And when you're alone, you feel blank, empty, like your feelings don't belong to you anymore if they ever did. You're not talking to anyone, not even yourself. That doesn't happen overnight. It starts with your overthinking, with your making it up, with you're too sensitive. And slowly, you begin to believe maybe you are. So you speak less, share less, until one day, you don't recognize the person keeping all that silence inside. But here's what I need you to hear. Your voice hasn't disappeared. It's been buried under the weight of someone else's version of your truth. And you can reclaim it. Not all at once, not loudly, but slowly, intentionally, and one truth at a time. Write down what you feel, even if it scares you. Speak up in safe places. Choose people who don't make you rewrite yourself to be understood. Because language is not just about being heard, it's about being. And if someone made you believe your words don't matter, walking away isn't weakness. It's survival. So let me ask you this. Are you ready to reclaim the voice that was taken from you?